There's a moment almost everyone recognizes, and it doesn't just happen on dates. It happens in the elevator at work when your boss steps in and you suddenly can't remember how normal small talk works. It happens at a family dinner when a relative asks a pointed question and your mind goes completely blank. It happens at a party when someone you find genuinely interesting sits down next to you, and instead of a normal sentence coming out, you feel your throat lock up like someone hit pause on your brain. Most people walk away from moments like that thinking the same thing. I just need better things to say. That belief is almost never true, and chasing it is why so many people stay stuck in the same loop for years. To understand what's actually happening, you have to stop thinking about this as a communication problem and start thinking about it as a threat detection problem. Your nervous system runs on software that's tens of thousands of years old. It was built for a world where the biggest danger wasn't saying the wrong thing at a networking event. It was being cast out of the group, because in that world, isolation meant death. That old alarm system still runs today, and it cannot tell the difference between I might get rejected by this person and I am in physical danger. Both trigger the same response. Heart rate spikes, breathing gets shallow, your jaw tightens, blood moves away from the parts of your brain responsible for verbal fluency, and toward the parts responsible for fighting or running. This is why you can be articulate all day long, and then the second it matters, the words disappear. It's not a character flaw. It's a resource allocation problem happening below conscious thought. Here's where it gets more specific, though, because this reaction isn't uniform across people, and the difference often traces back to attachment style, the pattern you developed early on for how reliable connection and approval felt growing up. People who lean toward an anxious attachment pattern tend to run a specific background process in social moments. Constant scanning for signs that the other person is losing interest, getting bored, or about to withdraw. That's the narrating your own conversation instead of having it feeling, where part of your mind is present. And another part is essentially producing a highlight reel in real time, grading every sentence before it's even finished. Is this boring her? Did that sound weird? Should I have said something else? That splitting of attention is exhausting, and worse, it's visible. Not because people can read minds, but because a nervous system running on alert leaks signals a calm one doesn't. Quicker breathing, rushed pacing, eyes that dart around instead of settling. Humans are extremely good at picking up incongruence, even when they can't name what they're noticing. They just feel that something is a little off. This is where most advice goes wrong. The instinct, and this shows up constantly in dating content, interview prep, public speaking coaching, is to fix the performance. Better opener, sharper story, a more polished pitch. But if the alarm system underneath hasn't been addressed, none of that material lands the way it's supposed to. Said too fast, it sounds rehearsed. Said too carefully, it sounds stiff. Either way, the tension underneath bleeds through the words. The lever that actually matters isn't what you say. It's whether your body has decided this moment is safe enough to stop bracing. And this explains something that confuses a lot of people. Why quieter, more reserved individuals often come across as more composed in high-pressure social moments than people who talk more. Loud, fast-paced behavior under social pressure is frequently the nervous system trying to outrun its own discomfort, filling every gap because silence itself feels unsafe, like an opening for judgment to creep in. Someone who can sit inside a pause without rushing to patch it is broadcasting something the alarm system genuinely cannot fake. I don't need this interaction to go a particular way in order to feel okay about myself. That's not a technique. It's a nervous system that isn't currently in threat mode. And people respond to that regulation far more consistently than they respond to clever material in dating, in interviews, in negotiations, in basically any situation where you're being evaluated. So what actually shifts this, if it isn't better lines? It starts with recognizing the freeze for what it is in the moment it's happening, rather than analyzing it afterward. Most people only reflect on these moments hours later, replaying what they should have said. That's useful for learning, but it does nothing in the moment itself. The more valuable skill is catching the alarm as it fires, noticing the tightened jaw, the shallow breath, the urge to rush, and giving your body a different signal before your mouth even opens. A slower exhale does more in that instant than any rehearsed sentence, because it's a direct message to the nervous system that there's no emergency here. Dropping your shoulders away from your ears does the same thing. These aren't confidence tricks. They're literally recalibrating the alarm system in real time, and they work whether the person across from you is someone you're attracted to, someone interviewing you for a job, or a relative who just asked an uncomfortable question at dinner. There's also a pattern worth naming around what happens after you calm the initial spike, because the anxious loop doesn't always end after the first sentence. Sometimes it just relocates. You get through the opening exchange fine, and then panic sets in about keeping it going, about the silence that might come next, about running out of things to say. This is usually where people make the second mistake, switching topics erratically to avoid a lull, which actually creates more tension, not less, because it signals discomfort with quiet rather than ease with it. The alternative isn't finding more topics, it's getting comfortable staying inside the one you're already in. Most conversations don't die from lack of material. They die from someone panicking the second there's a 2-second gap and yanking the subject somewhere new. A pause is not a failure state. It's just a pause. Treating it as one is often the difference between a conversation that feels natural and one that feels like an interrogation neither person wanted to be part of. It's also worth being honest about what doesn't fix this, because there's a version of this advice that swings too far in the other direction. The idea that you should suppress the nervousness entirely, mask it, perform total calm you don't feel. That usually backfires, because masking takes its own kind of effort, and effort under pressure tends to show anyway, just in a different form. Overly flat affect, forced eye contact, a voice that sounds coached rather than genuine. The goal isn't to eliminate the nervous system's response or hide it. It's to stop treating the response as proof that something is wrong with you, which is often what keeps the loop running long after the initial trigger has passed. If this is a pattern that shows up constantly for you, going blank with specific types of people, replaying conversations obsessively before or after they happen, feeling like a spectator in your own interactions more often than a participant that's worth taking seriously and worth bringing to a therapist or counselor if it's significantly affecting your work, relationships, or day-to-day life. A video can explain the mechanism. It can't replace someone trained to work through it with you directly, especially if it's tied to deeper patterns from earlier relationships. What's actually useful to carry out of this isn't a script. It's a shift in what you're paying attention to the next time you feel that freeze coming on, whether it's at a party, in a meeting, or across a dinner table. Instead of scrambling for the right words, notice the alarm for what it is. A system reacting to an old kind of danger that isn't actually present, and give it one slow breath before you respond to anything else. That single pause does more to change the outcome than any line you could have prepared in advance. Where does this show up most for you? Is it with a specific kind of person? Or does it follow you into every high-stakes room? Tell me in the comments, because the pattern is more universal than most people admit. And if this way of looking at it was useful, subscribe. This channel breaks down exactly this kind of everyday psychology.